All right, students, here we go. Why don't you put that snack down and put on a swimsuit and let's go to work. It's moving straight ahead, lesson 1.4. Let's just go ahead and get rolling. So hopefully you have this sheet because you want to fill it out as we go or just kind of watch. It'd be better if you filled this out though. It's better for like learning in your brain and all that good stuff. So in previous problems, you noticed that as the independent variable, changes by a constant amount, okay? So that's the pattern you kind of see. As you look for different things, you see how much it's changing each time, and if it changes a steady amount or the same amount, we're calling that a constant amount. So there's a constant pattern of change in the dependent variable. So you can use this pattern of change to identify other linear relationships. Okay, so like for instance, we have the week is the independent variable, and the amount of money in this situation is the dependent variable, right? And so as the pattern of change happens here, that tells you stuff, which is really great. It tells you patterns and the different things you're looking for, so that's good. So if you weren't sure about that gobbledygook I just told you, that's okay. You will get really great at it. So let's just keep moving ahead and you will connect all those things that we just talked about. So Mrs. Chang's class, they're using their money from the walkathon they just did to provide books for the children's ward at the hospital. The class puts the money in a school safe and withdraws a fixed amount, okay? So this is like a nice set amount each week to buy new books. To keep track of the money, Isabel makes a table and the amount of money that's left in the account each week. So what do you think the graph of this data would look like? So when you look at it, you look at this data, if we plotted it, what would it look like? And you're going to use different phrases like this. I'm going to be listening for words like it increases or maybe it decreases. Like either those are really good ones. You could say that it's steep. It goes up steep, it goes down steep. You could say it's steady. That's another thing you could do. You could talk about where it starts. Like those are different ways you could describe a graph when you look at a data. And does this table represent a linear relationship? So you're going to look and see linear. Now what I like about the word linear is you can see the word line in it. Yeah, so if we graph this, is this going to make a nice straight line? So if it's a straight line, then yes, it is linear. And you can tell it's a straight line if it has a steady rate of change. So if this is changing at a steady amount, then it will be a straight line, which means it will be linear. All right, let's kind of dive into the rest of these questions as we look at the data that Elizabeth collected and is keeping track of. So how much money is in the account at the start of the project? Okay, we can just go ahead and just look up here and see what the data says. And it says at week 0, it is $144. So $144 at week 0. Now that seems really simple, but that number is super significant, and we'll use that later. How much money is withdrawn in the account each week? So that's asking us to kind of build the table out. Let's look a little bit here. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to use these numbers here to kind of help me. So how much is each week? So 144 minus 132, and 144 minus 132 is 12. 132 minus 120, I'm just using the next one, it is 12. 120 minus 108. And if you're like not seeing where these numbers are coming from, just pause and kind of look around. You'll see it. 120 minus 108 is 12. 108 minus 96 is 12. 96 minus 84 is 12. Oh my goodness. All right, folks. There's a pattern going on here. How much money is withdrawn from the account each week? It is $12, and it's a steady amount each time. So it's like going down $12. So kind of like negative 12. Suppose the students continue to withdraw the same amount each week. Sketch a graph of this relationship. All right, I'm going to get you started, and then I want you to press pause, and I want you to finish it, okay? So let's go ahead, and we're going to start at 0, 0. Anytime you have one of your variables is time, go ahead and put it down here at the bottom, because that is my independent variable. So the two things that are happening are weeks, and we got money left in the account. So for weeks, I'm going to go by, each week I'm going to go by 1 week, but I'm only marking like the 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8. So my interval is 1 week, but I'm marking every other. So why don't you go ahead and prep your graph. Go ahead, press pause if I'm going fast, just because I kind of go quickly. Sorry about that one. And money, I need to be able to fit $144 on there. So I'm going to go by tens, but I'm going to mark the 20 marks. Okay, so 10. So and go ahead and pause if you need to take a second and fill the rest of this out. 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 120, 140. Okay, so my graph is all built. What I want you to do now is I want you to go ahead and plot these points that you have up here. So plot 0, 144, 1, 132, 2, 120. Plot each of those points. And when you get down to 5, come over and finish your table. At 6, it's going to be, what is it going to be? 84 minus 12. 84 minus 12 is 72. So go ahead and finish that out. Finish that out. Plot everything. So you're going to need to press pause because I'm moving on here. So press pause. Finish the table. Finish the graph. Ready, go. Okay, you didn't press pause, did you? Okay, press pause and do it because it's going to look like this. Oh, yeah. Oh, you didn't finish that? Press pause. Go ahead and work it out. Now, I know some of my dots, like when I plotted them, it was a little bit tricky because, you know, like they were plotting out in the middle of nowhere, but ultimately, this ended up being a nice straight line, okay? When I plotted this thing, it was pretty straight because I did my best at getting points where I needed them. And yours should be too. If you have any dots that are wonky, like way off the line, it just means you kind of got mistracked where you plotted it, pretty much. All right, good stuff. Why don't you compare yours with mine? Hopefully you did yours even better than mine because you're being more detailed and stuff. Okay, so let's see what else is going on here. Write an equation for this situation. Okay, so the amount of money that we have, okay, the amount of money that we have in this situation, we started with $144, and we're not increasing this time. We're not gaining money. We're actually losing it, so I'm going to be subtraction. And how much is it losing each time? Looks like it's losing $12 each time. So that's going to show up my equation of $12 each time, and it's basically each week. So this is what my equation is going to look like. It involves a few different pieces here. It involves having like my starting amount. It's going to have kind of my unit rate. I'm going to notice that it's decreasing. I'm going to notice that it has my independent variable, and I notice it's going to have my dependent variable. So lots of different like pieces and parts to an equation, but they're really not complicated because you just kind of gotta pay attention to where does my graph or my story start? How is it changing each time? That's really the two main pieces of it. And we ask ourselves, is the relationship between the numbers, is it linear? Well, did it make a nice line? Yes. And why did it? Because it changed at a steady rate. In fact, it went down at a steady rate. And that's just fantastic. Well, we got another teacher, Mr. Mamur's class. They raised money for the walkathon, and they're going to use theirs for games and puzzles for that. So one group is getting books, one group is getting games and puzzles. Well, this is what happened with his crew. Here's a graph of theirs. A couple things that we notice is, look at this. It's starting here, starting at 100. That's really significant, and that's an important part. Look at it's decreasing. Okay, something to pay attention to. Notice that it is a straight line so that we know that it's actually steady. It's a steady set thing happening here. I'm going to go ahead and create a table. Let's just go ahead and do that. Will you get that ready? Let's just do a quick T-chart or table. The two things that are on here are weeks and amount of money. So I'm going to do weeks and I'm going to do money. I'm going to use that gray line to help guide me a little bit. So weeks and money. So at week 0, it looks like they have $100. At week 1, it looks like it's right here. It is $90. All right. At week 2, they have $80. At week 3, they have $70. Okay, you know what that tells us? If we look here, we can see that in between these, it is changing by $10. In fact, it is going down $10. Here, it is going down $10. Here, it is going down $10. Folks, we see a steady pattern here. There is a steady rate of change. That's why it is a straight line. That's why it is linear. That's super duper awesome, okay? Awesome. And let's go ahead and once you build that table out, go ahead and keep going because you get all the different pieces of it. So 4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Goes all the way down to 10, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, 9, 8, 0. Ba-doo. So it looks at 10 weeks, they're going to be completely out of money. They've spent all their money. No more games. How about these guys? Where do they end? Oh, at week 12. So they can get some more books. So the children's ward at week 10 is all done with their games, but they are getting more books. More books. So, make a table. Check, check. We did that. First 10 weeks. Check, check. Why is it linear? We so talked about that. So let's write an equation. Okay. So money. Yep. That is my dependent variable. That's the one hanging out over here. My dependent variable. We call it dependent variable because it depends on what week you're talking about. How much money in the account? Well, it depends on what week we're talking about. How much money do we have left? It depends on the week we're talking about. So how much money we have left is, what did we start with? $100. And the money's going down, and it's going down a steady amount of $10 per week. So these are all the pieces and parts. We have where it starts. We have the rate of change. We have that it's decreasing. Oh my goodness, nice handwriting, Mr. Weber. We have the independent variable, and we have the dependent variable. So all the different pieces and parts. Super awesome. Yeah, love this. Oh, good. Look at this finale question. We're in the finale. You're doing it. Finale question. How can you determine if something is linear by looking at a graph? Well, if it's a straight line. If it is a straight line, not just any line, but a straight line, then it is linear. How about a table? How can you tell when you just look at a table of data, how can you tell if it's going to be linear? Well, if the pattern shows a constant rate of change. It could be increasing, it could be decreasing, it doesn't matter, but as long as it's constant. And if you're looking at an equation, what the equation will do is if it has a unit rate. If it has a unit rate or a constant rate of change or a coefficient, how about that word? If it has any of those things, a unit rate, a coefficient, a constant rate of change, that's going to be this guy right here, then it will indeed make a nice straight line. So that 10 is those things, this 12 is those things. That is the rate of change. That's the constant rate of change. That's the coefficient. That's the pattern. Awesome. Think we're out of questions. Sweet bucket of lava. All right, you guys, have fun. I'm going to go chase a squirrel and see if I can shave a mohawk into him.